they found out who really owned the property, the morning after the wedding. The morning mist rolled across the sprawling grounds of Whitmore Estate as I stood on the grand terrace, watching the last of the wedding cleanup crew pack away the remnants of what everyone believed had been the social event of the season. 24 hours ago, this magnificent property had hosted the wedding of my daughter Sarah to Jonathan Blackwood, heir to one of Chicago's most prominent real estate development families, in a celebration that had cost over $300,000 and attracted guests from across the Midwest's elite social circles. What none of the 500 wedding guests knew, including the groom's family who had insisted on hosting the reception at what they believed was their family's ancestral estate, was that I had been the actual owner of Whitmore Estate for the past 15 years, having purchased it quietly through a series of shell companies after the original Whitmore family fell into financial ruin following a series of failed business ventures and mounting debts that forced them to sell their generational property. If this story is resonating with you, please take a moment to comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, because we genuinely help families navigate these complex situations, and your support allows us to continue sharing these important stories of family dynamics and unexpected revelations. The irony of the situation had been building for months as Jonathan's parents, Richard and Victoria Blackwood, planned what they described as their son's homecoming wedding at the estate where Richard claimed his grandmother had once worked as head housekeeper for the prestigious Whitmore family during the 1940s and 1950s. They had spun elaborate tales about their family's historical connection to the property and their eventual acquisition of it through what they called generational loyalty and smart business investments. For 32 years, I had worked as a detective with the Chicago Police Department, specializing in financial crimes and fraud investigation, skills that had served me well not only in law enforcement but also in building a substantial investment portfolio through careful analysis of undervalued properties and strategic acquisitions. My modest appearance and unpretentious lifestyle had allowed me to operate largely under the radar of Chicago's social elite, accumulating wealth while maintaining the simple identity of a working-class police officer supporting his family. The Blackwood family had approached me 6 months earlier, not knowing my true identity as the estate's owner, requesting permission to host their son's wedding at what they believed was their own property. They had been renting the estate for various family events over the past 5 years through my property management company, always dealing with intermediaries who handled the arrangements without revealing the true ownership structure that I had carefully constructed to maintain my privacy. During those initial meetings, Richard Blackwood had presented himself as the estate's owner, showing me documents that he claimed proved his family's legitimate purchase of the property. Though my trained, I immediately recognized several red flags indicating that these papers were either forged or represented some type of fraudulent scheme designed to misrepresent their actual relationship to the estate. Rather than confronting the deception immediately, I had decided to allow the wedding plans to proceed while quietly investigating the full extent of the Blackwood family's fraudulent claims and gathering evidence of their systematic pattern of misrepresentation to various business associates, social connections, and potential investors who believed they were dealing with legitimate property owners rather than elaborate con artists. The wedding itself had been a masterpiece of social manipulation, with the Blackwoods playing the role of generous hosts welcoming Chicago's elite to their family estate for a celebration that would cement their son's marriage into what they believed was a middle-class police family that posed no threat to their carefully constructed facade of wealth and social prominence. Victoria Blackwood had spent the evening regaling guests with stories about the estate's history and their family's role in preserving its legacy, while Richard conducted informal business meetings with potential investors interested in their upcoming development projects, using the impressive backdrop of the estate to reinforce their credibility and financial stability. My daughter Sarah had been completely unaware of both my ownership of the estate and her new in-law's deception, believing that Jonathan came from a genuinely wealthy family with legitimate business interests and substantial real estate holdings. She had fallen in love with him during their college years, and their relationship had developed naturally without any knowledge of the complex financial realities surrounding both of their families' true circumstances. The wedding reception had proceeded flawlessly, with guests enjoying the estate's magnificent ballroom, landscaped gardens, and historic architecture, while the Blackwoods basked in the admiration and respect of people who believed they were experiencing authentic old-money hospitality, rather than an elaborate performance designed to maintain their fraudulent social position. As the evening progressed, I had observed Richard Blackwood making increasingly bold claims about his family's wealth and business acumen, promising investment opportunities and development partnerships to several prominent guests who expressed interest in collaborating with what they believed was a successful and established real estate dynasty rather than a carefully constructed house of cards built on deception and misrepresentation. The breaking point came during the father of the groom's speech, when Richard stood before the assembled guests and delivered an emotional tribute to family legacy and the importance of maintaining traditions across generations. He spoke about the honor of welcoming Sarah into their family and the significance of celebrating their union at the estate that had been in the Blackwood family for decades through hard work and smart investments. The speech was well received by the guests, who applauded enthusiastically and raised their glasses to toast what they believed was a heartwarming example of American success and family values. However, I knew that every word was a lie designed to manipulate both my daughter and the assembled witnesses into accepting a false narrative about the Blackwood family's legitimacy and social standing. After the reception ended and the guests had departed, I had remained at the estate to oversee the cleanup process while also preparing for the conversation that I knew had to happen the following morning. The weight of maintaining this deception had been growing heavier with each passing hour, and I realized that my daughter's future happiness depended on her understanding the true nature of the family she had married into. Sarah and Jonathan had spent their wedding night in the estate's master suite, a room that I had personally renovated 5 years earlier with custom furnishings and artwork that reflected my own taste and investment in maintaining the property's historical character. They had no idea that they were sleeping in a bed that I had selected and a room that I had designed according to my own vision for the estate's future. The next morning, I found them having breakfast on the terrace where I now stood, looking radiant and happy as they planned their honeymoon trip to Europe and discussed their future together. Sarah was glowing with the joy of a new bride, while Jonathan seemed relaxed and confident in his new role as a married man with what he believed were substantial family resources to support his ambitions. I had prepared carefully for this moment, gathering all the relevant documents, financial records, and legal proof that would be necessary to explain the complex situation without causing unnecessary trauma or confusion. My goal was to protect Sarah while also ensuring that she understood the reality of her circumstances so that she could make informed decisions about her future. Sarah, Jonathan, I need to share something important with both of you, I began, settling into a chair across from them while holding a leather portfolio containing the documents that would change their understanding of everything they believed about their wedding celebration and their family's relationship to each other. The conversation that followed lasted for over 3 hours as I methodically explained the true ownership structure of the estate, the details of my investigation into the Blackwood family's fraudulent claims, and the evidence I had gathered regarding their systematic pattern of deception in their business and social dealings throughout Chicago's financial community. Sarah's initial reaction was shock and confusion as she struggled to understand how her father, whom she had always known as a hard-working police detective, had accumulated enough wealth to purchase and maintain such an impressive property without her knowledge. She asked detailed questions about my investment strategies and the timeline of my property acquisitions, trying to reconcile this new information with her lifelong understanding of our family's financial circumstances. Jonathan's response was more complex, shifting between denial, anger, and eventually a reluctant acknowledgement that his parents had been misrepresenting their financial situation for years. He admitted that he had always had suspicions about certain inconsistencies in their stories about the family's wealth and business success, but had chosen to avoid investigating too deeply out of loyalty and a desire to maintain family harmony. The revelation created an immediate crisis in their day-old marriage, as Sarah realized that she had unknowingly participated in her in-laws' deception by allowing the wedding to take place under false pretenses. She felt betrayed not only by the Blackwoods but also by me for keeping the truth hidden during the months of wedding planning when she could have made different choices about the celebration. Jonathan found himself caught between loyalty to his parents and his commitment to his new wife, realizing that his family's deception had put him in an impossible position where any choice he made would damage important relationships and force him to confront uncomfortable truths about the people he had trusted most throughout his life. Over the following days, the situation became increasingly complicated as word began to spread through Chicago's social circles about the unusual circumstances surrounding the Blackwood wedding. Several guests who had been approached by Richard for investment opportunities began asking questions about the family's actual financial status and the legitimacy of their business proposals. The local newspapers picked up the story after one of the wedding guests, who happened to be a financial reporter for the Chicago Tribune, began investigating the conflicting ownership claims surrounding Whitmore Estate. The article that followed exposed the Blackwood family's fraudulent activities and raised questions about how they had managed to maintain their deception for so many years without being detected by authorities. Richard and Victoria Blackwood initially attempted to deny the allegations and threatened legal action against anyone who questioned their integrity or business practices. However, when confronted with the overwhelming evidence that I had gathered during my investigation, they were forced to acknowledge their deception and the extent of their fraudulent activities throughout the Chicago business community. The fallout from these revelations was swift and severe. Several business partners and investors who had been working with the Blackwoods discovered that their projects were built on false foundations and that they had been defrauded of substantial amounts of money based on misrepresentations about the family's assets and capabilities. Law enforcement agencies, including my former colleagues in the Financial Crimes Division, launched formal investigations into the Blackwood family's business practices and discovered a complex network of fraudulent schemes that had been operating for over a decade. The evidence suggested that they had defrauded investors of millions of dollars through various real estate development projects that existed only on paper. Sarah and Jonathan faced the difficult decision of how to handle their relationship in light of these revelations about his family's criminal activities and the complex circumstances surrounding their wedding celebration. The foundation of trust that should have supported their new marriage had been severely damaged by the deception and manipulation that had characterized their courtship and wedding. Jonathan ultimately chose to cooperate with law enforcement investigations into his parents' activities, providing testimony and evidence that helped prosecutors build cases against Richard and Victoria Blackwood for fraud, money laundering, and other financial crimes. This decision effectively severed his relationship with his parents but demonstrated his commitment to honesty and legal accountability. Sarah struggled with feelings of betrayal and confusion about both her husband's family situation and my own deception in keeping the estate ownership secret during their wedding planning. She required several months of counseling and family therapy to work through the emotional impact of learning that her wedding had been built on layers of lies and misrepresentation. The legal proceedings against the Blackwood parents took nearly 2 years to resolve, during which time Jonathan and Sarah worked to rebuild their relationship on a foundation of complete honesty and transparency about their family circumstances. They moved into a modest apartment in downtown Chicago, choosing to start their married life independently rather than accepting support from either family until they could establish their own identity and values. During this period, I made the decision to transfer ownership of Whitmore Estate to a charitable foundation dedicated to supporting families of law enforcement officers killed or injured in the line of duty. The property would be used as a retreat center and conference facility for police families dealing with trauma and loss, ensuring that the estate would serve a meaningful purpose rather than remaining a symbol of deception and social manipulation. The media attention surrounding the case eventually died down, but the impact on Chicago's social circles was lasting. Many prominent families began questioning their own business relationships and social connections, leading to increased scrutiny of investment opportunities and social climbing schemes that had previously been accepted without investigation. Richard Blackwood was ultimately sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for fraud and money laundering, while Victoria received a 5-year sentence for her role in the conspiracy. Their assets were seized to provide restitution to the investors they had defrauded, leaving them financially ruined and socially disgraced within the community they had worked so hard to infiltrate and manipulate. Jonathan and Sarah eventually reconciled and rebuilt their marriage on a stronger foundation of mutual honesty and shared values. They chose to maintain a modest lifestyle, with Jonathan working as a project manager for a legitimate construction company and Sarah pursuing her career as a social worker helping families affected by financial crimes and fraud. 3 years after their wedding at Whitmore Estate, they hosted a small renewal ceremony at the Chicago Botanical Garden, surrounded by close friends and family members who knew the complete truth about their story. The celebration was simple and authentic, representing the genuine love and commitment that had survived the revelation of their family's deceptions and the complex circumstances of their original wedding. The estate itself has become a successful retreat center that has hosted hundreds of police families dealing with various types of trauma and loss. The property's historical grandeur now serves a meaningful purpose, providing a peaceful environment for healing and support rather than serving as a backdrop for social deception and financial manipulation. My relationship with Sarah has been slowly rebuilt through honest communication and family therapy, though she still struggles with feelings of betrayal about my decision to keep the estate ownership secret during her wedding planning. We have worked to establish new patterns of communication based on complete transparency about financial matters and family decisions that might affect her life. The Blackwood family's fraudulent activities ultimately affected dozens of investors and business partners throughout the Chicago area, leading to enhanced regulations and oversight procedures designed to prevent similar schemes in the future. The case became a textbook example for law enforcement training programs focused on detecting and investigating sophisticated financial fraud operations. Today, 5 years after the wedding that exposed the elaborate deception, Jonathan has established himself as a respected professional in the construction industry, earning recognition for his ethical business practices and commitment to transparency in all his professional relationships. His complete break from his parents' criminal activities has allowed him to build a reputation based on his own integrity and work ethic. Sarah has become an advocate for families affected by financial fraud, working with law enforcement agencies and victim support organizations to help people recover from the emotional and financial trauma caused by sophisticated scam operations. Her personal experience with deception has made her particularly effective at helping others navigate the complex emotions associated with discovering that trusted family members have been living lies. The morning after their wedding, when I revealed the truth about property ownership and family deception, marked the beginning of a difficult but ultimately redemptive journey for everyone involved. The painful process of confronting lies and rebuilding relationships based on honesty created stronger foundations for genuine love and respect than the original wedding celebration built on deception and manipulation. The estate continues to serve police families as a place of healing and support, transforming the site of an elaborate fraud into a symbol of genuine service and community support. The property's history has evolved from a backdrop for social climbing and deception to a meaningful resource for families dealing with real trauma and loss in their dedication to public service. Our family's story has become a reminder that authentic relationships require complete honesty, even when the truth is complicated or potentially hurtful. The deception that surrounded Sarah's wedding ultimately strengthened her marriage by forcing both partners to confront difficult realities and choose their values consciously rather than accepting inherited patterns of behavior and belief. The revelation about property ownership was just the beginning of a much larger story about family loyalty, moral integrity, and the courage required to choose honesty over convenience when the stakes are high and the consequences are potentially devastating for everyone involved. During the months following the estate revelation, I discovered that the Blackwood family's deception extended far beyond simple property fraud into a sophisticated network of financial manipulation that had been operating throughout Chicago's business community for over 15 years. My investigation, conducted with the help of former colleagues in the Financial Crimes Division, uncovered shell companies, forged documents, and elaborate Ponzi schemes that had defrauded dozens of investors out of millions of dollars while the family maintained their facade of legitimate business success. The psychological impact on Jonathan was particularly devastating as he began to understand the full extent of his parents' criminal activities and his own unwitting role in their deception. He had unknowingly served as a front man for several of their fraudulent investment schemes, using his genuine charm and education to convince potential victims that they were dealing with a legitimate family business rather than sophisticated con artists who had been perfecting their techniques for decades. Sarah's career as a social worker took on new meaning as she began working specifically with families who had been victimized by financial fraud, drawing on her personal experience to help others navigate the complex emotions of betrayal, shame, and recovery that followed the discovery of systematic deception by trusted individuals. Her work became recognized throughout the Chicago social services community for its effectiveness in helping victims rebuild their lives and relationships after experiencing devastating financial and emotional trauma. The media coverage of the case attracted attention from federal law enforcement agencies investigating similar fraud networks operating in other major cities, leading to a multi-state investigation that eventually connected the Blackwood family's activities to a larger criminal organization specializing in real estate fraud and investment scams targeting wealthy individuals and small business owners seeking development opportunities in urban markets. My own reputation within the law enforcement community was enhanced by the thoroughness of my investigation and my willingness to pursue justice, even when it meant exposing my own family to public scrutiny and potential embarrassment. Several police departments began consulting with me on complex financial fraud cases, leading to a second career as a private investigator specializing in uncovering sophisticated white-collar crimes that traditional law enforcement agencies often lacked the resources or expertise to investigate effectively. The transformation of Whitmore Estate into a police family retreat center required extensive renovations and the development of specialized programs designed to address the unique psychological and emotional needs of law enforcement families dealing with trauma, loss, and the stress of dangerous careers. The project became a collaboration between multiple police departments, mental health professionals, and community organizations committed to supporting the men and women who dedicate their lives to public safety. Jonathan's decision to cooperate fully with law enforcement investigations, despite the personal cost of betraying his parents, demonstrated a level of moral courage that gradually earned him respect within both the business community and law enforcement circles. His testimony was instrumental in securing convictions not only against his parents but also against several other individuals involved in their criminal network, helping to prevent future victims from falling prey to similar schemes. The healing process for our family required years of careful work to rebuild trust and establish new patterns of communication based on complete honesty about financial matters, family history, and personal struggles that had been hidden behind facades of success and respectability. Family therapy sessions helped us understand how secrets and deception had damaged our relationships and provided tools for creating authentic connections based on mutual respect and genuine understanding of each other's experiences and perspectives. If this story has touched your heart, we would love to hear from you. Please take a moment to comment below and let us know where you are watching from, as well as your thoughts on family dynamics like this. Every perspective matters, because stories like these remind us that while families may face struggles, challenges, and even heartbreak, there is always an opportunity for healing, connection, and growth. By sharing your own reflections, you not only add to the conversation but also create a ripple effect of encouragement for others who may be experiencing something similar. When you engage a Euro, whether EUROS through commenting, liking, or subscribing a Euro, you are helping us build a space where families can feel less alone and more supported. Many people silently carry burdens within their homes, and often just hearing that someone else understands can provide an enormous sense of relief and hope. This channel is more than a platform for stories. EUROS is a community where resilience, compassion, and solidarity take center stage. Your support allows us to continue creating and sharing content that uplifts, inspires, and shines a light on the very real challenges that families go through. We believe that even in the most difficult circumstances, there are lessons to be learned and strength to be found and together, by engaging with these stories, we can remind one another that no family has to navigate their journey in isolation. So please, if this message resonates with you, don't hesitate to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you not just supporting us you standing with countless families around the world who find courage and comfort in knowing that they are part of a wider circle of understanding and care. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for helping us continue to share these powerful stories of resilience and hope.